What's up, y'all? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Alice, and I'm so glad you're here. Today is just a solo episode, so it's me chatting to you while you're on your walk, while you're in the car, while you're doing your laundry, whatever you're doing. Maybe while you're working out. Hey, girl, hey. And today I actually just wanted to hop on and record a really impromptu episode to release today, actually. Even though I have a bunch of episodes lined up, I wanted to chat about something that has been on my mind, that I've been thinking about a lot, that has impacted me a lot, but I didn't really know how to talk about it. I was still trying to let it marinate, still trying to figure out how I wanted to talk about it, because it can be very triggering maybe for some people, and I also just wanted to figure out how I felt about it, right? Quite often on these platforms, whether it's a podcast or social media, I try to be really careful with what I talk about and how I talk about it, because I don't want to trigger anyone. I really want to steer away from diet culture, but sometimes as a fitness or yoga coach, you accidentally can share something that you didn't realize was, either wrong or hurtful, triggering, part of that diet culture society that we all grew up in. So it can be a slippery slope. And as with everything, I always think we have to learn and grow. So you can make mistakes, right? But you have to learn and grow from them. So if I do ever say something wrong or something that triggered you or something that does not sit well, always let me know. I always want to learn from my mistakes. But this isn't really about something or someone else. What I want to talk about today is about myself. So right before the summer, as I'm recording it, it's December, but right before the summer, apparently I lost a lot of weight, or I lost a lot of fat, or my weight was distributed differently over my body, or somehow my body started looking different. How did I realize this? Is because all the time, all of a sudden out of nowhere, people started coming to me and telling me like, oh my God, you look so great. You lost so much weight. What did you do? And for me, it was really interesting because I never weigh myself. I haven't weighed myself in years. I have literally no idea. And it's not because I get triggered when I weigh myself. It's just that I don't see the benefit of doing it. So I don't really care. I don't track my size or anything like that. So it was really interesting when out of nowhere, people started coming to me and saying like, you look so good. You lost so much weight. Your body looks completely different. Or you look so strong. I like that. You look strong. At least that's like not offensive, and not that going up to someone and telling them that they lost weight is offensive. So if you're one of the people that did that, don't worry. I was never mad or angry or annoyed, but it just was really, really interesting to me to see that so many people, first of all, noticed, even though I didn't really notice. Second of all, that a lot of people asked me, how did I do it? And I was like, wait, let me think about that. What did I do differently? And that apparently, it's funny because now when I look at older videos of myself, I do see like, oh, I was maybe holding a little bit of, I don't know, I was never, like, I want to make sure that you know this, I never felt bigger or this or that at all. I never was bigger. I was never chubby in my eyes. But I could see I was a little bloated maybe, or that I was just packing on a little more skin, I guess it's called, or fat, right? Fat without it being a bad word at all, because I never felt bad. I never felt like I wanted to lose weight at all. But since so many people started coming out, what I want to talk about today is, first of all, what did I do differently that I did lose fat without even really trying to at all. But also, I really want to talk about, maybe even more, about how it impacted me when all of a sudden everyone came to tell me that I looked great because I lost weight. And why you have to be really careful with doing that, and what you can say, and how you can tell someone that they look good, maybe in a different way. Like instead of saying, wow, you lost so much weight, just say like, wow, you look like you're glowing or something like that, right? Because you never know what's going on in someone's life. Maybe they are losing a lot of weight, or their body's looking different because they have, they're sick, they have a disease, or someone passed away and they're having a lot of emotional trauma, which is preventing them from eating enough. So let me first go down the route of telling you the 3 things that I did that I think helped my body let go of some of the weight. And also to let you know, I think some of that has come back, which is interesting, but that's for part B. So first of all, there's 3 things that happened in the spring when all of a sudden, I guess I lost so much weight. I haven't weighed myself, so I don't know how much it is. And I also don't want to trigger anyone into telling like, hey, you should lose weight, because that's not the type of yoga and fitness coach I am at all. I never want you to move your body to lose something. I always want you to move your body to gain something. You gain more energy, you gain more confidence, you gain more muscle, you gain more speed and endurance and a better immune system, you know? But these are the 3 things that I did differently that might have shifted things for me. The first one is that I got out of a relationship. I was in a 4.5-year relationship, and it was never toxic at all. It was a great guy, but we just did not match together. And at the end, I think I had a lot of emotional stress that I was holding on to. So when we finally made that decision to really cut the cords, because we were on a break before and did all the stuff, we went to therapy, we tried so hard because we really loved each other. But when we finally made that decision, no matter, even though we love each other, it doesn't mean we have to be together. Let's literally cut all cords, cut connection for a few months, all of that. I think, first of all, I felt like a different person the day after. Like, I had so much energy, I felt so good. And I think a lot of the emotional weight that was weighing on me was literally gone. So I think that's a big part. Emotional weight, emotional stress can really cause you to hold on to a lot of weight, a lot of water weight. Stress can cause you to be a little puffy and bloated. So I think that was step one thing. I think another one was that I did an ecstatic breath workshop in Portugal, actually, around that same time. And I had a huge like breakthrough or letting go type of thing. I've done breath work many times. Sometimes you don't feel anything. Sometimes you feel a lot of things. And every time it feels different, right? Sometimes you shake, sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry, sometimes you scream. If you've never done either a CAP session, which is a Kundalini activation process, or if you've never done any type of breath work, like a guided breath work ceremony with like powerful specific types of breathing, then I really suggest you to do it. But this specific one, my body cramped up in a way that I had never experienced before. It's very normal that your fingers can get tingly, that your arms and your legs can start cramping up. It's normal. It's like the surplus of oxygen that's all of a sudden happening. And for me, it happened in a way that I had never experienced before. My hands were underneath my chin, like cramped up. My knees were pulling in, my toes were cramping. My whole body felt so, I guess, acidic or toxic or whatever, so cramped. It hurt so much. I never felt that before. And I was really starting to feel panicky. That's why you always do it with a ceremony master or a practitioner or whatever. So he came to me, and instead of saying, because I really wanted to stop, I was crying. I was like, oh my God, it hurts. I can't stop. I need to let it, like, I can't do this anymore. I was crying. I was screaming. It was a lot. I think it helped that I was in a different country where no one knew me. And when the practitioner came, he was like, it's okay, you're safe, let it go. It's okay, you're safe, breathe through it, let it go. It's okay, you're safe, breathe through it, let it go. And once I, at some point, could surrender into that pain, could surrender into that feeling, it's interesting. I'm getting a little emotional as I talk about it, so it must really have been a big part of it. Once I was able to do that, the amount of release I felt was really, really intense. So I think sometimes you can let go of trauma or stress or emotion, and you don't need to specifically know what that was about. So I don't really know exactly what I let go then in that session, but it was something. It was big. I felt amazing afterwards. I felt like I was flowing. And during that, you can also get like visions, or you just visualize things, maybe, whether it's consciously or subconsciously or whatever. For me, when I could surrender into that pain and then it disappeared kind of, and it felt like it melted out of my body, visually, I could see myself like jumping off a cliff, and I was just flying in the universe. This is a little woo-woo if you're not used to woo-woo stuff. And I was like, it's okay. You can just like let go. And I saw myself flying and I saw myself taking that jump and I was like, it's fine. You can let go. You can be. And I think that was a huge part also of like letting go some type of unprocessed trauma. And again, some type of emotional weight that was causing me to, sleep bad, get bloated, maybe not digest my food as well. Also eating more than I should probably, having like, snack attacks and eating a lot of sugar. So that was number 2. And then number 3, what I also did in the spring is I got tested for a bunch of intolerances because since the year before, I started really noticing my health when it came to my digestive health deteriorating. Like I've always had a sensitive gut, as in I knew from when I was little that I was lactose intolerant, because when I used to have lactose as a kid, I got really bad eczema everywhere. And I knew that if I ate any type of lactose or if I overdid it with the gluten, so if I ate like bread with every meal, but I mean, who doesn't? I would get really bloated, get really bad tummy aches, and it would feel like little pins and needles in my belly, right, in my intestines. So I always knew I was sensitive to a few things. But all of a sudden, I guess a few months before that, or maybe the whole year before that, I also started really getting a lot of rosacea. So like the red cheeks, like the veins. But again, something that I've been sensitive to my whole life, but it was to such a level that like my face, my temples, my cheeks, my nose would get really, really red and it wouldn't disappear again. Normally when I have rosacea, like after a glass of red wine, I would get rosy cheeks and an hour later it was gone. But now it would like stay for hours, for days, almost all the time. So I could feel that my body was trying to tell me something. And I had few other things that are TMI that I'm not gonna tell you about, maybe. Not yet anyways, maybe another time. But I really felt like, oh shoot, something is happening. Like I have to really pay attention to my body and what it's trying to tell me, because this is not normal, this is not okay. Another thing that is also TMI, like I would go to the restroom all the time, like a big stop. Not number 1, but number 2. Like literally like 8 times a day, which is not normal. And that's something I've also had my whole life, which probably I should have realized, like I should take this more seriously. But anyway, so I got tested. I did 2 types of tests. I did maybe a more woo-woo type of test. I don't know how scientifically proven it is, but now I'm forgetting the word, what it was. I'll put it in the show notes. It was basically this like little magnetic hand reader that you put your palm on and your fingertips, and it literally supposedly reads your molecules. I have no clue. Anyways, but it prints, and then you get this whole big report of what you're sensitive to, what you might be allergic to, what you're intolerant to, because there's a whole varying level of degree of intensity. And so I had this whole list of things that I was sensitive to, like lactose and gluten, which I thought never really paid attention to. Lactose, yes, but gluten sometimes. But also soy and sesame and tomatoes, and also a bunch of things. And when I talked to the dietitian about this, she was like, well, some of these chemicals that you're now now your body is reacting to, she said, with this one specifically, for instance, it's often when you eat too much of something that all of a sudden your body starts to see it as a poison. And so that's what I think happened, because I would eat, for instance, peanut butter, bananas, avocados every single day. Like, I'm obsessed with it. Who isn't, right? But some substance that was in those types of foods, for instance, all of a sudden my body started reacting to it because I was just only eating those things all the time, every single day. So it's really important to vary your food, right? Don't have peanut butter every day. Switch it up with other nuts and other types of butter. Anyway, so I got this whole list. And if you know me, you know I'm really not about restriction. Just like with working out, I always think about what can you add instead of take out, right? Like you can add more vegetables, you can add more water, you can add more protein. Think of that instead of what you're taking out. But after talking to that nutritionist, I also got a poop test done. There's a better word for that. But basically where you send it off to a lab, it checks like, okay, do you have any bacteria, any candidas, any worms maybe? I didn't, luckily, but that happens. Do you have any, what else they can see in that, whatever. And so I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna do this for real for 2 months. avoid everything that I'm sensitive to, and then see how my body reacts to it. And I'm not going to tell you it sucked a little bit, because especially for eating out and with going to friends and stuff, because if you want to be serious about avoiding those things, you know, you can't, or for me at least, because that's what I've tried the rest of my life. I'll be like, you know, at home I'll be really good, but in restaurants I'll just eat whatever. But then for me, it's too gray area, like in that moment at least. And because I wanted to be really serious about it for 2 months, so I could see when I brought it back into my diet after those 2 months to see how my body reacts to it, I said, you know what, I'm going to be really strict about this. So I didn't do any soy, didn't do any sesame, didn't do any gluten or dairy, didn't do any tomatoes, and then a few other things where that chemical was in that my body thought was poison, basically. So also like things like banana, peanut butter, what else? Avocado. My favorites, basically. So I did that, and that was a third thing that I think made me feel so good. I realized how much my body was reacting to these things that I was apparently sensitive to, and I had so much more energy. I was obviously also eating a little less, I think, because it's just harder to, you know, you really have to be prepared. You really have to food prep. You really have to think in advance, what am I going to eat? When am I going to eat it? When you can't just eat everything, right? And these types of restrictive diets are really for short term, okay? To really figure out what you are sensitive to and not. So I'm sure because of that, I was eating less, even though I would never, it was not to restrict like nutrition. I didn't want to lose weight or any of that. It was really to see what I was reacting to. And I think I was still eating more than enough, for sure. But because I have such a sweet tooth, like every night I would eat literally a whole chocolate bar, literally a whole pack of cookies, because I work out so much. So it's not like I gain weight when I do it. But I do put a lot of stress on my intestine when I do it, especially because, you know, there's gluten in the cookies, and chocolate was one of the other things that had that little chemical that I couldn't eat, and lactose. Oh my God. So it was a whole thing, but I really turned a click in my head, and I just didn't do it for 2 months. I was really good for 2 months. I had the most energy in my life I slept better. I felt better. And that's also in that same time when a lot of people came to talk to me about, whoa, what did you change? Anyway, so after 2 months, I reintroduced gluten. I reintroduced all the things. And I noticed that the things that I really have to, you know, kind of be mindful of are gluten and dairy. I would just, after 2 months of not eating it at all, for me, because everyone has symptoms that come out differently. For me, it was, first of all, going to the bathroom. Like when I eat gluten, I all of a sudden it goes right through me. And another huge one is fatigue. Like because now I'm not that strict anymore. When I'm out and about, I will have a sandwich. When I'm at my parents', I will have a cookie or a cake or a pie, whatever. Because I do want to live. But I will notice, like, it feels like a slumber coming over my body all of a sudden, like real brain fog, real fatigue. So that's really interesting. And then the other thing that I really still have to be mindful with is tomatoes, which I'm sad because I love so much. But the whole thing, when you're on a sensitivity, allergy, intolerance journey, you'll notice like it's not about healthy or not healthy. Because for some people, gluten is healthy. For some people, dairy is okay. For some people, tomatoes are great. But for my body right now in this moment, maybe it'll change. Tomatoes, when I eat it, my face will go red again. So that's what I've noticed. That's what I've learned. And those are the three things that I think really shifted how my body holds on to weight, how it's distributed, puffiness, bloatedness, fat, all that kind of stuff, right? For me, how those three things impacted me, you know, not in a physical way because I can't see I don't see a difference really, were my energy levels. Just so much more energy and my mood, such a good mood. But then when people started to come and tell me all of these things, like, what did you do? You look so great. You look so skinny. You look so strong. I was like, was I not skinny before? First of all. Second of all, did I look so bad before? One person even said, yeah, like your tummy always looked so bloated and now it's not anymore. And I'm like, did I always look bloated? I didn't even realize. Tummies sometimes look bloated. It is what it is. But the interesting thing is, when I then let go of that restrictive, when it was time, you know, to reintroduce, to be more normal, like live an actual life and be able to go out and eat whatever you want, I all of a sudden noticed this fear creeping in. What if I eat this, will I gain weight? And I've never had that in my life before. So that's something now that I have to be really mindful of. That's something that I'm sure plenty of you have felt. That's something that, diet culture does. And that's an effect that you can have on someone if you tell them, you look so skinny, you lost so much weight, you look great. How did you do it? Like, if you tell people that, that's going to be the reaction they have later, that they'll be like subconsciously, because I don't consciously think, oh, I can't eat because I can't gain weight. Like, that's not what I think. But these are the subconscious thoughts that come in, the asked for thoughts, right? So of course, since I'm a mindset coach, I love talking about mindset. I love talking about being aware of your thoughts. Of course, I practice stepping back, noticing the thoughts, asking myself, why am I thinking this? Where did this come from? They're like the 5 whys. Like, why am I thinking this? Oh, because people said I look great all of a sudden. So, but why does that matter to me? Or why, blah, blah, blah. So you keep asking why until you come to the root cause, right? So anyway, so that's something that I'm now really mindful of. If that pops up, like, what if you gain the weight again? What if you gain, I don't even want to call it weight because I don't know how much I weigh, but what if you get puffy or bloated again? And for me, it's like, wow, that's so interesting because I never had to deal with that. And that's, again, one of those effects that you'll have if you go up to a person and tell them you gained the weight again. So for me, what I'm really trying to shift into and focus on is just asking myself, if I do have gluten, I will feel tired afterwards. I might feel bloated afterwards. I might have a tummy ache. Is that worth it to me? And sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's worth it. But sometimes, no, it's not worth it. And a lot of this is planning if I'm going somewhere that I can bring gluten-free pistolets. If you're Dutch, you know what that means, if you're Belgian. So it's a lot of preparing, a lot of planning, and just a lot of being aware of your thoughts and being able to step back, step out and be like, hey, you're okay. You're not gonna gain, or you're not gonna get bloated, or your body isn't gonna change from having like one piece of bread or a pack of cookies. But I also noticed because of that thinking, all of a sudden, I'm really back into a kind of a bad eating pattern with binging and then feeling not guilty about it, because I never feel guilty, but just thinking like, why did I binge again? Why could I not just have a handful instead of the whole pack? And I do think a lot of it has to do with maybe not an all or nothing mindset, because I do practice not doing that. But just like the fact that so many people came up to me and told me by being restrictive and then finding that balance by not being restrictive. So why am I telling you all of this? Just to let you know, it is a journey. So right now I am on the journey to find that balance again. I don't want to be as restrictive as I was in the spring, but I do want to listen and honor my body, knowing the things that I am sensitive to and not overindulging with that, having a time and place for that. By really connecting with my body, with my gut, with my intestines, and supporting it. It's not because you don't gain weight, it's not because you work out a lot that you can just, overload yourself with sugar. Another thing is, this is for another episode, is that I just discovered I have ADHD. I mean, I kind of always thought, especially it's so trendy now, but I went to an actual psychiatrist, had an evaluation, and apparently people with ADHD have to be really careful with sugar, dairy, and gluten, which is really interesting. Maybe I'll get a specialist or an expert on here to talk about that, because obviously I'm not an expert. But my psychiatrist, what he told me was basically people with ADHD, they have a harder time with dopamine regulation. And I think if I understood it correctly, we don't make dopamine ourselves that well. And that's why we look to so many external factors to boost our dopamine. So like there's very many people with addiction issues who have ADHD because you do risky things and that give you the dopamine. You like taking risks or working out because working out gives you dopamine. That's my thing, right? Or you eat a lot of sugar because that gives you dopamine. But you have to be really mindful and careful then that you don't overdo it. Anyways, that was kind of my blah. The only thing my blurb or my word vomit, the only thing I really want you to take away from this, honestly, is if you do want to lose weight or fat, there's no shame in that, of course. I just don't want it to be your main goal. I want you to first of all, ask yourself why. Why do I want to feel good and healthy? And I want you to ask yourself, what will it give me, right? More energy, more strength, more confidence, more endurance, all that good stuff. But if you then also say, I do want to lose a little bit of fat, think of that, what is giving you emotional stress? Are you in a bad relationship? Are you in a job that gives you a lot of stress? And how can you regulate that stress and let go of that stress? Try breath work, try energetic sessions to see if you can let go or release or process some unprocessed trauma that you might be holding onto that might be giving you stress, might be bloating your body, that you give that emotional weight. And then thirdly, be mindful of how you speak to people, and be mindful if people are telling you things that you don't take it into, your food journey and your wellness journey. It's always ups and downs. It's honestly a journey. You're not gonna have one day wake up and be fixed and be perfect and be, this is it, now I don't have to think about it or work on it anymore. It's always checking in, checking in, checking in, checking in. On that note, that was it basically. On that note, I do want to say I just finished this new little freebie you can find in the notes below, and it's called Your Daily Zone, and it's basically a daily check-in. It's this circle with colors, and every zone has 3 ways to check in. I feel, I think, I am. And for instance, if you're in the regular zone, it's I feel energized, normal, I'm thinking, focused thoughts, I can focus, I am active, I am sleeping well, all these things. And then when you become in the orange zone, which is more you're becoming dysregulated, then it's more I am feeling more stressed, I'm feeling cluttered, my thoughts are not focused, I'm easily distracted, I am sleeping less well, I'm feeling on edge. And then when you get in the danger zone, or in that 3rd zone, it's more I can't sleep, I'm awake all the time, I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, I feel anxious. And then with every zone, there's a list of little things and actions you can take immediately to try to support yourself, whichever zone you are in, right? So whether that's going for a walk, whether that's taking a workout, but also calling a friend. When you're in that 3rd zone, the dysregulated zone, that's make an appointment with a therapist, talk to a professional. In that medium zone, maybe it's more talk to friends, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So all of these things are really interesting. So just download that freebie below, and that can help you with your check-in. So yeah, that was it. I don't know if this was an interesting episode. It just has been weighing on me a little bit, no pun intended. And I wanted to share my journey because, we're all on a journey, we're all growing together. And sometimes I take my own story, my own journey out of it a little bit because I don't want to influence you too much, because every experience and every journey is so unique and so different, right? So I want to help you, I want to support you, but I don't want you to think you should feel this way or you should try this or do that. Only that, because everyone needs different things. But I do think sometimes connecting a little more with you, telling my own personal stories a little more might be interesting to some of you. So if it is, let me know. Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can find it. Every Tuesday, there's a new episode. And the more you rate and subscribe to it, the more the podcast gets pushed out when other people are, searching on certain target words like wellness or health or whatever, then this one might pop up the more people listen to it and rate it and review it. And that's it. As always, if you want to move your body with me, if you want to meditate with me, start your free 7-day trial on Bodiac.com. Find it in the show notes below. That's my membership platform for guided workouts, yoga flows, and meditations. And give me a follow online. Have a beautiful rest of your day and see you soon, or hear you soon. Bye.